Do you ever think about the whole spider-sona trend? See, ever since the release of Into the Spider-Verse 6 years ago, ouch, the internet has been abuzz with the concept of taking the basic idea of Spider-Man and injecting a bit of themselves into it, resulting in some very clever reinterpretations of the basic character and some fun redesigns. And it makes sense narratively too, as Stan Lee has been quoted as saying part of the idea behind Spider-Man being a fully masked hero is that anyone could be the character beneath it. An interesting way to really set him apart as a universally adored hero that's so relatable and impactful to an immeasurable number of people. Those of you that saw the title and thumbnail might be saying by this point, alright, what's this got to do with Ben 10? And, well, Yuri Lowenthal, for one.
After they're done, I'll grant you a merciful end.
And all this time I thought you didn't like me.
Okay, before we get down to business, there's something I have to tell you. I'm fresh out of honey.
But I've been revisiting this series lately after being inspired by some recent Ben 10 stirrings online. In particular, an artist by the name of Willow-Wickes on Twitter has created some really cool concepts for various aliens in the Omnitrix that are more influenced by her appearance. An interesting idea that I realized already has some precedent in canon too. I mean, even since the original series back in 2005, there's been the idea of other people wearing the Omnitrix. Vilgax's main goal was obtaining it, as well as every other villain that Ben fought. It was intended for Grandpa Max, there have been several instances of Gwen wearing it, but it really blew up around the time of Omniverse, with the alternate universe versions of Ben, each boasting altered designs influenced by a creator who I owe quite a bit to, the late Derek J. Wyatt. Derek himself, despite an understandably rocky relationship with the fandom at times, was even one of the creators who weighed in on the popular fan discussion of who would be on your Omnitrix roster. So all this made me stop and go, you know what? Why don't I try taking it a step further? Right, so in the spirit of the Spider-Sona Challenge, or I guess as I'm going to call this one tentatively, the Into the Omniverse project, until we come up with a better one, I'll be laying down the groundwork and basic guidelines for this process in case any of you at home would like to try this out for yourselves. I would genuinely love to see what other people make of the idea and how they can expand on the already alien designs. With that said, number 1, keeping it simple. I'll be focusing on the base 10 for the purposes of this initial series. A lot of people, myself and friends included, tend to also include 3 bonus aliens akin to the extras Ben would unlock over the course of a given series, but to not overburden myself with the workload, I'll just worry about the initial 10 and expand if the response to the series is good. Number 2, be strategic about your choices. This is less of a rule as y'all are free to do what you like, but for my own sake, to avoid earlier problems when I was younger of choosing every powerhouse alien with no real strategy, I'm going to be picking aliens that I think will work well towards a more balanced team, even if it comes at the expense of some favorites. Number 3, try and come up with a unique name for your aliens. Much like how Spider-Sonas have codenames across dimensions on top of being a given spider person on their home world, I thought it would be fun to evoke that, and the Ben 23 alternate names to see what people think they would come up with instead. And number 4, no ultimates, fusions, or crossovers. In a more relaxed conversational setting, it's no problem to go ham, but I do want to provide a bit of structure to all of this. So, for the sake of arguments, no loading up your rosters with the likes of Ultimate Echo Echo, Formungasaur, Goku, none of that. Only the original 4, and I guess reboot series aliens. And with that out of the way, I would like to introduce you to what I will be calling the headfirst Omnitrix roster, with the first 3 aliens of my given 10 for the series. Now, normally for a fire-based alien I would have gone with Heat Blast. It's a very classic alien to roll with, and the first one we saw Ben turn into, so usually at the top of my list whenever the conversation came up for Omnitrix rosters between friends. But after thinking about it and noticing how I tended to choose just a bunch of powerhouses with absolutely no sense of versatility, just because they were my favorites or anything like that, I looked into using a fire-based alien that could be more useful in other settings. Swamp Fire is something my friends and I have summed up pretty well as basically Heat Blast and Wildvine rolled up into one. And I stand by that as a strong point in favor of him as the first member of my roster. Not only can he use similar moves to Heat Blast, he also has the added bonus of regenerative properties and control over plant life, and that can be used in combative instances or for first aid, rescue, anything like that. Not to mention he has a seasonal variant, albeit one I didn't use as the basis for my take on the design. Maybe if you guys are interested in more of these, I'll get to it after the main 10. So, with that in mind and my personal idea of an Omnitrix influenced by knight armor to tie into my personal online image and design sensibilities, I came upon the motif of a shoulder mantle badge across all alien forms. One that would generate varying degrees of armor, at least manifesting across the left arm on all of them. Sorta like the asymmetric armor placement on the Juden Sentai Kyoryuju suits. For Swampfire, it takes on a wooden appearance and grants a mouthplate, my final compromise after struggling with a visor-covered face akin to the Forever Knights. I imagine for combative purposes, maybe Swampfire can launch them kinda like the bulbs on his arms, and even light them on fire for extra potential if he's feeling really nasty. And here we have my take on Swampfire, and for the name, I'm torn on either Hearthwood or Timber. Maybe you guys can help weigh in on that in the comments. Oh, and as a bonus because I accidentally started this project forgetting that I had swapped the two out, here's my take on Heat Blast. Sorry buddy, you didn't make the cut. But your name did also inspire the rebranding of this channel, so I guess you win some, you lose some. Say hello to Ignite! Next up, a classic choice from the original series that did make the roster, Accelerate. Perhaps the most popular speedster alien in the Ben 10 series, and for good reason. His sleek build and racer-inspired body did make incorporating a knight armor theme a bit difficult, because while good armor isn't as restrictive as most people assume, there's still the flash problem of it either looking like it would weigh the character down, or just looking ugly if there's too much of it. So with Accelerate, I didn't make too many drastic design changes. Just applied some patterning elements based on Ben 10,000's design for Accelerate, and added just enough armor to protect certain areas of the character's lanky body, without making him look like a velociraptor made out of tungsten, as well as a dagger-like blade at the tip of his tail for potential tail whip damage in combat. As for what I would call it, I've landed on Acceleraptor for this take on the design. With that, we had the first all-rounder alien of my roster in Swampfire, and the more athletic speedster in Accelerate. So, who am I going to rock with for my first powerhouse alien? After all, that was such a major struggle I've had in the past, choosing so many of them all at once, so who made the cut out of all of them?
Oh, for crying out loud. Ben!
What?
Look, I'm a simple man, and I will always love loud-mouthed, Jean DiMaggio-voiced Tiger Man, and I will make no apologies for it. And in my defense, Apoplexians like Wrath are very powerful in universe. Capable of single-handedly demolishing tanks, surviving falls from thousands of feet in the air without any noticeable damage, getting stronger as they get angrier like furry little hulks, and on top of that, they're naturally prone to trash talking, so I'll easily amuse myself. I mean, there's the whole it's one of the few aliens that can influence the user's personality thing, and that could be dangerous, but
It'll be fine, I'm sure.
I mean, what's a few twisted ankles here and there? I hear it adds character and mobility. With Wrath's design, I mostly took inspiration from the white tiger look of Albedo's Wrath in Omniverse, but with a blue tinge. Which I now realize makes him look kinda like the Yeti from the Rankin Bass Rudolph special. Maybe if I feel like redesigning him down the line, I'll try something based on a lion to get across that knightly vibe even more. As much as I enjoy the final design, I do feel like it reads a bit more gladiator than knight, but that's at least something that feels in character for Wrath. So to round out this video's rotation of my personal Omnitrix roster, here we have Wrath, aka Tygard. And there we have it! My first 3 picks for an Omnitrix roster, personalized to my own aesthetic. Definitely had a fun time working on these, even with the time-sensitive nature of this self-imposed challenge. I would definitely like to get around to more of these and maybe expand on some of my thought processes and possible world-building aspects, all to really dig into the Spider-Sona inspiration of this challenge. More so, I would love to hear about the aliens you guys would want for your Omnitrix rosters, and what you make of my choices so far in the comments below. Feel free to take this on yourself yourselves and put your own spin on it too. If you'd like to keep up with me and maybe keep up with the live process for some of these, feel free to follow me over on twitch.tv/IgnitedSpark. On Saturday, I stream games at 5 p.m. PST, and on Sundays, I stream art at 5 p.m. PST. So feel free to drop by, hang out, and maybe we can see what we can make together. In the meantime, this has been Ignited, and I hope you all have a good night.